I can turn into a fish. Chapter 28, Open for Business. The next morning Chu Xian opened his shop door and stood in the sun, stretching comfortably. After devouring a steamed bun and spicy soup breakfast, it was time for Chu Xian to leave, so he drove his Rover to the Gold Dragon Resort. Chu Xian was still a new driver, so he didn't try to drive fast or pretend to be a boss on the road. The parking lot of the Golden Dragon Resort was filled with dozens of fancy cars, all there to celebrate Golden Dragon Group. Chu Xian took a flower basket he'd bought the day before out of his trunk. It was labeled, Chu Xian Ornamental Fish Shop Wishes Golden Dragon Holiday Resort Great Fortune. At the entrance of the holiday village, Jin Sen stood in a suit beside manager Wang, welcoming all the guests. He purposely walked over to Chu Xian and said, "Haha Chu Xian bro, welcome. Welcome. Congratulations." Chu Xian said with a surprised glance at his professional appearance. He. Jin Sen straightened his clothes and said with a smile, "Brother, I can't keep you company yet, go inside and have a look around." N. Chu Xian nodded. "Don't worry about me." Manager Wang immediately took his flower basket. Chu Xian nodded in his direction and walked inside. Just inside was a group of people surrounding the glass welcome, and a beautiful commentator was giving an introduction. The two koi fish in the center are the famous champion fish Lion Queen and Shishi, each worth more than 2 million, they cost our Mr. Jin lots of his energy to get his hands on. As for the goldfish on the sides, aren't they beautiful? These are all precious ornamental goldfish, worth 2,000 each. Chu Xian walked over, listening to the commentator, unable to resist. Some of the guests looked up with faces full of surprise. A 4 million RMB welcome sign was really incredibly lavish and gave people a sense of quality and refinement. Chu Xian walked further in and sat in the rest area. The tables were covered with fruit and alcoholic beverages, and all the beautifully dressed ladies and gentlemen chatted warmly and familiarly with each other. To Chu Xian, this scene was like something straight out of TV. It seems my clothes don't suit the occasion. Chu Xian realized most of the people around him were wearing suits or formal clothing and very few wore casual clothes. His mouth twitched. There's still a lot for me to learn. Grabbing some fruit, Chu Xian ate leisurely as more and more people gathered around. As it approached 11, waiters came over to speak to the crowd. The opening ceremony was about to begin, so Chu Xian followed the flow of people to the entrance. A platform had been set up, and Jin Hua and Jin Sen stood on it, surrounded by the media. At 11:30, Jin Hua gave a speech as the CEO of Golden Dragon Group, followed by Jin Sen who also said his piece. Afterwards, a famous middle-aged man and an older man got up and cut the ribbon together. Chu Xian recognized several celebrities from Haiqing City along with some famous movie stars. After the ribbon-cutting ceremony, Jin Sen brought a group of similarly aged young men and women over to Chu Xian. "Brother Chu, let me introduce you. These are my friends Zhao Xiang, Song Hui Sheng, Li Qiaoqiao, Li Huazhong, Ji Wencheng." Jin Sen pointed them out one by one, then introduced Chu Xian to them. "This is a new brother I made recently, he started his business all on his own, he's very capable." "Hello, hello." All the young men and women shook his hand politely. Anyone who could be considered a friend of young Master Jin must be outstanding. Chu Xian shook their hands, and they all followed Jin Sen inside. After arriving in a hall, Chu Xian and Jin Sen and his friends sat down just in time for dinner to be served. Chu Xian soon picked up from their conversation that all these people were sons and daughters of rich and powerful men, none of them had an ordinary background. Jin Sen only ate a little before he had to go mingle. After all, this resort was under his management and he needed to make some friends in both business and political circles. "Ah, brother Chu Xian. What do you do?" When most of them had finished eating, a young man named Zhao Xiang turned his attention to Chu Xian. Everyone at the table turned inquisitive gazes towards Chu Xian. Chu Xian smiled at them. I sell ornamental fish. I sold all the fish near the entrance to Mr. Jin. You sold all of them? All the people looked at him with astonishment. At this point, everyone and their mother knew the fish were worth more than 4 million. Many of the guests were stunned by Golden Dragon Group's grand gesture. Chu Xian nodded. Wow, those goldfish are so pretty. Do you have more? I want to buy some. The only woman at the table, Li Qiao, asked him excitedly. Not right now, all of them were bought by Mr. Jin. I'll have some after next Monday. You can come to my shop, and I'll give you some as a small present. Chu Xian answered with a smile. I'll be embarrassed if you give me too many. If you just save 5 or 6 for me, I'll be happy. Li Qiao smiled. It's really nothing. I can give you all a couple, and if you don't want them, you can gift them to others. You can help spread my name a little. Chu Xian smiled. You said it yourself, bro. I'm a poor man. When the time comes, I'm going to go to your shop and take my share then. Ji Qingwen said with a laugh. Haha, you're welcome to. We should add each other on WeChat, and I'll message you when my fish get restocked so you can just drop by and pick some up. Chu Xian said generously. Trading some of his goldfish for some friendly connections was a good exchange to him. Then I'll have to take you up on that. Li Qiao said, as she stuck her tongue out at him and smiled. It's no trouble. Chu Xian shook his head. All I ask in return is that you tell your friends about me. Don't worry about it. At Chu Xian's generous gesture, the people around the table all smiled and felt closer to him. He was unpretentious and honest, well worth befriending. What are you all so happy about? Jin Sen asked curiously as he walked over with a slight flush on his face, seeing them talking and laughing so happily. Of course we're happy. Brother Chu Xian said he's going to give all of us some goldfish, Ji Qingwen said with a smile. You all benefited from me, so you have to give me a cut later too. Jin Sen joked. What do you mean because of you? Chu Xian brother is willing to give us his fish, what does that have anything to do with you? Haha. Come. Let's drink.